What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is Friday. It's the big thing. It's Capes and Cowls. Bob Iger had a big conversation with his shareholders. I mean, it was he keeps saying that Marvel did too much. It was more about the quantity than it was the quality. The streaming, the movies out of nothing was really contained. So the new report is essentially and he even says it, that we're going to cut some stuff, and we have cut some stuff kind of quietly. So we're going to speculate on what we think exactly was cut and whether it was a good move or whether it should be a good move in general. And as you saw in the title of this video, what should Marvel's plan be moving forward? And that is how many movies, that is who, that is the tone in general. Because there's puzzle pieces are starting to be formed. The question is, what's the full puzzle once it's completed? What's it going to look like? Zack Snyder was on Joe Rogan, and he talked about a lot of different things, man. He talked about fandom. He talked about breaking the Batman rule. He talked about a lot of different things, and we'll kind of dive into those comments. The Flash, what's it, Grant Gustafson? How do you pronounce it?
Grant Gustin.
Close. Grant Gustin. Yeah, well, that guy played the Flash, and people love him.
Stellan Skarsgård's cousin, Grant Gustafson.
That's right. And you know who else likes Gustafson? James Gunn. And so he's going to talk about the Gustafon being on DC.
Earth 2's Flash, Grant Gustafson.
Yeah, Gustafon. You want to be a Gustafon? I don't even know Gustafon. I like that name.
Such a leap from Gustin.
Not even close. Not even close. All right, so Gustafon will be in 7 new Flash movies.
Flash has been cast.
DC.
It's Grant Gustafson. It's just Grant with a mustache.
This just in, Grant Gustafson is now running DC Studios. That's right. And season 5 of Invincible just came out, and I've watched all of them. So that and more on Capes and Cowls. So if you're brand new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. You get more factual information like the one I just gave you. Hit the button. Do all you got to do. Let's get into it. It's Capes and Cowls. I'm ready, and so are you. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Capes and Cowls. It's myself, Grant Gustafson, Winston A. Marshall. And
You don't understand. My junior year prom date, her last name was Gustafson. So when you said that, I had a full what the like
yeah.
She like and the funny thing was, her dad was trying to do that thing that dads love to do where they're like, oh, you better have her home.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did this man have, when I showed up, was sitting in a chair with a shotgun. He had written my name on the shotgun shell.
That's great.
And I'm like, oh, you don't understand how, I get you're just doing the dad thing, but there is a really weird implication of an older white man sitting there with a shotgun when a black dude walks into his house being like, so you're Winston.
What state was this in?
In Texas.
Oh, yeah. He said it like
He held that part back.
he was like it was in Texas.
Yeah, he's like,
believe it?
yeah. Well, that's kind of like they hand you that at this border, don't they? That's wow.
Oh my God.
Can you believe it?
Oh, Jesus.
I can believe
fact, I'm surprised you were surprised.
That's what I'm saying. So, Grant Gustafson back on the show next week. Anyway, listen to me. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I wanted to give a big thanks to Paul Jarman, because you see that new screen in the back. He did that bad boy. And I obviously thanks to Diesel Time, who did our old one and does amazing stuff for us, and props obviously to Wicked Art, who does the opening. But he sent that, and I was like, yeah, I kind of really love that. In the back, it pops. So I'm going to put that, and I love the other ones too, but I think it was a little change. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
It's pretty amazing.
All right, guys, let's get into this first thing with the Bob Iger. Here we go. All right, Bobby, what's he say? Disney CEO Bob Iger discusses Marvel fatigue. Now, I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to read the whole report again, or the other day rather. But Iger was talking to he was a speaker at Morgan Stanley Technology, and he talked about what was going down, and he said that you got to kill things that you no longer believe in, and that it's not easy in this business because either you've gotten started, you've sunk some costs, or it's a relationship with either your employees or with creative community. And he said it's not an easy thing, but you got to make the tough calls. We've actually made those tough calls, and we've not been public about it, but we've killed a few projects already that we didn't feel strong about. Now, on Disney, when it comes to Marvel, because they also did Star Wars stuff, but we're going to cover the Marvel stuff. On Disney, they have Ironheart, Wonder Man, Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And there's no update on Vision Quest. And Nova is another one. So none of these have dates yet. And then you've got the films, which is Shang-Chi 2 or Armor Wars. So you haven't heard about either of those. So those are the titles. So we're going to start with this. That out of all those, let's talk about the projects that we don't think are going to happen. I'm going to give you my thoughts of what I don't think is going to happen. And then you guys say yes or no. And I'll tell you, I said this the other day, and I stand by it. Agatha is very lucky that this announcement
afterward.
came out after, so that would have been scrapped. I think Ironheart is gone. I think even though they shot stuff, I think Ironheart is gone. I think Wonder Man is toast. I think Eyes of Wakanda will stay. I think Marvel Zombies is toast. I think Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man stays. I think Vision Quest maybe. Nova's toast. Shang-Chi 2 will happen, and Armor Wars is toast. But Ironheart could still stick around because they shot stuff for it, and they had like almost like a full trailer at
D23 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but it's been backed up.
I feel bad for Dominique, man. She was like grown now.
Yeah, but it's also, and the thing is too, that character did not pop the way that they wanted her to in that movie.
The trailer popped though. That was crazy. Like I remember loving that trailer. Like that was one of the highlights of the D23 presentation for me.
I remember thinking
But
to
that
myself,
hasn't come out at all, right? It was just
no. We only like people in that room have seen it.
I remember seeing it saying, I don't know anything about her yet. And I don't know if they're gonna introduce her in Black Panther 2, and I'll see if I love her. And I didn't. I thought I was like, she's fine. They tried it. It was like, this is clearly a setup to a TV show. And this was one of the things that Marvel was doing in general, was that they were like, oh, yeah, we got a new show and we got to set this person up. But it's like, let people earn stuff before you give them TV shows.
The weirdest thing about the Wakanda Forever appearance to me wasn't that she felt like she got forced into it, because I thought narratively it worked at points, not all points, but at points, was that she was screen testing with Chadwick Boseman, so she had been a part of that different version. So I'm really curious what role she would have played, because more and more we hear that the Chadwick version would have been him mourning a loss of time, which makes it so sad. Like, the plot of the movie being so, prophetic to losing Chadwick in its own way. Like instead of Chadwick losing time because of the blip, we lost time with Chadwick. And there's something really like sad about that. And I feel like that's the only way that Ryan Coogler could come to terms that was making the movie he made.
Oh, sure.
So I'm really curious what her role would have been as a mentee. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like that would have been
any of that. The problem is, unfortunately, that's just
didn't happen.
Didn't happen. So we got and now as because Bob Iger's comments from everything that he said about projects, I think they're making the right calls here, that you've got to focus on certain things. Now, we'll get into what we think they should focus on.
I'm a maybe on Ironheart. I think Ironheart might survive just because of the volume.
Yeah, before we throw to Winston,
do you want to do each of our
tell me
pass fail?
Tell me what you think.
I think Ironheart makes it, but it's more like a 60-40, and that's mainly due to I've got some bias, and I really like that trailer.
Sure.
Wonder Man, I unfortunately don't think makes it, as much as I love Yaya. That was plagued with the strike, and also it was one of the really messier titles, like comedy and those elements. Eyes of Wakanda, I think, makes it because they did announce a lot of stuff recently, and Wakanda Forever did exceptionally well, and it's
good
a
brand.
beautiful property. Marvel Zombies, I think, has an audience, but it's not me, so I'm gonna say no. But it's kind of the opposite of my Ironheart.
But if you're Bob Iger, this is the question: if you're Bob Iger and you're cutting stuff, I mean, yeah, but the question is, like, right now, what's pushing Marvel forward? Because that's what he brought. It's like, you can't just say, well, zombies are popular.
They did dump What If
show.
Not gone, as in like they just put it out. Remember, like What If came out and it was like, here it is, and we were like, all right,
that's
thanks.
what I mean. So that's why I think they're focusing on big IPs that they think can pop TV and
Spider-Man's the biggest IP they have.
Yeah, they shot it already.
So I think that exists. Vision Quest, as recently as 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Paul Bettany was talking about it. So I feel like that is a maybe. I'm going to go 50-50 on Vision Quest. I think Nova's dead, which is unfortunate. And then I personally think both Shang-Chi 2 and Armor Wars make it, but I think they call Armor Wars Iron Man 4.
Interesting. Okay, so you're not really, you haven't cut much then.
I cut Wonder Man, I cut Zombies, and I'm maybe on Vision Quest.
Right, so 2.
I think the things that are cut aren't announced yet. I think they had a lot more in the slate that won't get announced.
I think they killed projects that they already had working. Winston, what do you think?
Okay, let me see the list. So I actually think that Ironheart and Armor Wars are going to get fused. I think that
Together?
I think that they're close enough in what your core hero is, and then you can have a situation of Riri now.
But wait, when you say that though,
It's a TV or movie.
it's going to repurchase the TV because they already shot all the stuff for TV.
Well, so then I'm even curious in that regard because I mean you're using all the same equipment and stuff. It's really just how you're going about telling whatever said story. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe what they end up doing is you don't use the full Ironheart show maybe the way you did if you don't use the footage, but maybe it's like we're gonna take it. It was gonna be 8 episodes. It's now gonna be a 3-episode like mini series to lead into Armor Wars as like a type of situation, and you just can kind of compound it and make it a that type of situation.
Because they already changed Armor Wars from TV to film.
Right.
They just did that with Moana.
And they also said that that Riri would have a place in Armor Wars anyway. It would be a War Machine based film, but Riri would be a part of it. So like I wouldn't be surprised if they do some sort of thing with the two of them. Wonder Man's gone, Eyes of Wakanda, and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We talked about this when we went to the What If thing. They did a trailer. Those are coming out. I think that's we just haven't heard the date yet. It'll happen. Zombies, I don't think happens. Nova's definitely not happening. Shang-Chi 2, as successful as it was, I think it truly depends on how long it takes for Simu to get better, because he dealt with that ACL tear. And so, like, obviously that will happen over time, but he's probably got other projects lined up in the pipeline and stuff like that. So that will, like, doesn't mean that the character is going to disappear, but, like, whether or not you do that second film, that might get pushed out for a long time. And then other than that, yeah, our Vision Quest, I know Paul Bettany just talked about it. I don't know if Vision Quest is going to necessarily happen. I don't feel super strong about it.
I mean, there's a lot of, Ewan McGregor was talking about Obi-Wan too and how badly he wanted to do it. That's not happening. So I just think that if they're going to cut stuff down, and they might, and you might be right also, Coy, that there's other things that they were like, well, this is coming along, we're going to do this, and then things we don't even know about, and they just gutted it because it wasn't coming along. The other things Mike brought up, he doesn't think Blade's going to happen. And I said they're too far along in the process with this now, and if they scrap it now.
It's been such a vocal people wanting it, but also we're in that very specific bubble of the internet where I don't know what the average person, like we always talk
how much
about.
They know about it.
Yeah, people that are like clamoring for this stuff have been clamoring, but I don't know if the average person even heard about it.
That's true. It's a good point. Very good point that you could, but I think that I still, even because there is clamoring for it in the certain circles and people who want it, and because they want to work with Mahershala
and they want to work low budget.
Yeah, so
I think you don't cut the low budget potential new genre.
And so the other thing is that Bob Iger was talking about, and this is kind of moving us forward into this conversation, plus what this conversation and what the title of this video is all about is moving Marvel forward to get back to that place that they were in, and that is just, here's a big movie, there's the quality of the movie, and now there's the big budget and the big payback that comes with it because you put out some quality. And he said what we've been saying, and that's that Deadpool is going to be that first one. Deadpool is going to be the one. Now, what they don't want to do, though, because they have not had a movie. Now, I already know the answer, what you're going to say, and I already know the retort. They have not had a, what's the last movie that they had in the MCU that really delivered on box office and critical and fans?
Guardians
3.
But it didn't tie into any of this stuff in the multiverse. It was, and we've talked about it many times over, that movie is essentially the third movie of a great trilogy, but it doesn't, but it nothing else.
Gamora.
Yeah, but it doesn't, but not
to push the story forward, but it's tied to it.
Sure, but I'm talking about like what overall the multiverse of what they're trying to do.
So you're saying what was the last multiversal film that has tied in that was successful?
Yeah.
No,
and you could say Doctor Strange and those things too.
Wakanda Forever, or you could say Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange, even though
but I'm
you
not
said
so much
all three, if you said all three, then
right,
multiverse didn't. But then I would say either Wakanda or No Way Home.
Yeah, but right. No Way Home.
No Way Home was.
No Way Home, I think, is the answer, because Wakanda was still like, because of everything that went down. You're like, everyone had the same answer. It's like, for what they had to deal with and what they had to endure. They did it.
Loki, but that's not a movie.
Right. That's a TV show. I would agree with you, but movie. So but you have to go through your mind going, oh, that. And what he wants to do is go boom, 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 boom. It all ties together. So Deadpool is the first one. You gonna say Winston?
Just in the sense that I understand what he's saying. There used to be something specifically about MCU like properties, period, mainly films, that if you talked about it, they were like revered. Like there were occasional bad ones here and there, but it wasn't like consistently and like people couldn't decide on it. Like universally, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that Guardians movie, that was dope. Oh yeah, Winter Soldier, that was incredible. Oh yeah, like Thor: Dark World, it's not my favorite.
More hits than misses for sure.
Yeah, and so
And I think he's over it, and I think he now wants to make sure, like because you talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, said it's going to be. He believes it's going to be one of the more successful Marvel movies that they've had in a long time. I agree. And I think it's also going to, if they can do and capture the same kind of magic that No Way Home did, and you got two big movie stars with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman kind of leading the way with that one. You got a lot of the other, the cameo porn, as they say, will be there, but it's going to be relevant to the thing in general. And then Deadpool is not the big question, though. It's a big question, but it's not the big question. The big question is, what does the next movie that comes after it, how does that do? And that's what, Thunderbolts?
As of now.
As of now, it's Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah.
Now, Thunderbolts...
that's before Captain America?
I think so.
I think Cap got moved because of all the reshoots.
Yeah,
They had like months of reshoots.
No, I know, but like, isn't Thunderbolts just starting filming? So in which case, wouldn't Cap be
Let me double check.
quicker?
Further along.
So Captain America is actually February, as Winston said, and then Thunderbolts is then in May. So...
Which honestly like makes sense, and if you think about it, both because we've shot more of Captain America, you're doing reshoots, so that's a lot quicker than Florence Pugh has just reported to set, which was like a story like a couple days ago. But then also B, with this idea that people are genuinely using February, not only as like the beginning of putting major films out, but we've seen for a lot of these past few years like a major black film come out there, and knowing that Sam Wilson is obviously the lead of this film. That also makes kind of sense. You're doing like what you did with Black Panther the first time around,
February,
and trying to use that Black History Month, black, like and hope that you can pull the audience to show up for that.
Absolutely, and I think right now they have Blade slated for November 7th.
Yeah, next year theoretically be a 3 Marvel film year.
After having one this year.
And technically, if you're looking at, it's not that far from July to February. Like Deadpool, to Cap is not that big a leap.
Not enough to where like Dune 2 and then King Kong Godzilla, same studio, cannibalizing each other.
Right.
It's not that.
It's not at all.
No.
And I like a 7-month, like it'll feel like it used to, where it's like, okay, we got time to recover, we can talk about the film, we can be excited,
Not
and then
months. March, April, May, it's like 3 months between
from July, August, September, October, November, December,
May.
January, February.
What's in July?
What's in July? May is
Deadpool, the July up until next
I hear
February.
you saying.
I'm saying the gap between them isn't that long.
2024 to 2025.
Yeah, 7 months. I'm saying the next thing to the following thing isn't that long.
That's right. It's not.
And then the 3 in a row is like
Right. It's February, and then you've got from February in 2025 then
May.
Then you've got May, and then
That's
you got
quick.
until November, which you got a little bit of a break. If they stick to if Blade winds up happening, that's why I don't think Blade's going to get canceled. I think Blade is going to happen, but 3 of them now. If this is where it comes, this is where I said the big question. If Marvel delivers on Deadpool, and then people will go, okay, as Coy said, you got 7 months to get excited. And then they can, now Captain America, the new one, has gone through a bunch of different rewrites now, and they want to get this thing solid. Now, if they get this thing solid and it delivers in February, like, whoa, they pulled it off, and then 2 in a row, then you start cooking.
Yeah, and then you go right into a team movie. And it's got, the buzz isn't high, but it does have David Harbour and known properties that people like it maybe not, the biggest names, but it does have Winter Soldier. It has Harrison Ford in it.
Oh,
he's in Thunderbolts.
No.
He's in Captain
now
America.
you're mixing stuff. Captain America is Harrison Ford, unless he's going to pop up in Thunderbolts.
I think he does.
Yeah.
He probably will, because Red Hulk a lot of times has been known to associate with them. So
I think the gap in that poster is Red Hulk.
Like
visually,
see that.
you know what I mean?
It sets up into but that's a great point though, because what that does now is that
now
to
there's
my
a through
earlier
line.
point, that's the through line. And if they continue, like, okay, because I haven't been telling that why you got so excited for Marvel films, like, yes, you watch the standalone story, and then there's something that just a little sprinkle to tie it into the next one. And if they do that,
I could even see, because if we remember now some of the connections that were already happening. So if you look at the fact that if you go all the way back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's where you're getting Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Valentina. She goes and gets the U.S. agent who's in the Thunderbolts and all that. You can very easily. So again, that was Sam tied into that. You have his film Red Hulk, as far as that goes, something must go wrong, and then that's an instance of her being like, and now we're activating the Thunderbolts, and you go right into that.
Well, then you've got your like, we've got a street level, not giant, like the Winter Soldier is not as big a film as an Avengers film, and I think the problem has been there's only been big films. Like Thunderbolts is going to be the big version of the street level film, but it's not Multiverse of Madness. It's not Love and Thunder. It's going to be the big version of espionage. So I think it's smart to go back to a contained Cap 4, contained being now $200 million. But use that Cap 4 to go into your team version of that movie of Thunderbolts, and then your first movie after those two, boom, new genre with horror, with Blade, with smaller budget. So I think it looks great going from giant spectacle film Deadpool into a sequel known property, lean into that, and then the big version of that, Thunderbolts, and then you pivot into horror.
Well, this is what I'm saying. When people say, "Well, Marvel's toast." No, look, Marvel's had some missteps and it's sloppy right now. But
I'm here with you.
But the thing is, when you have Deadpool, which you pretty much will deliver, you think it will, and then if they can get it's not going to be an easy task, but if Captain America delivers, and then Thunderbolts delivers, and then Blade delivers all in 1 year, well, then people are going to be like, Marvel's back, baby.
And people love saying that expression. People are like, "Oh, we're so back!" Like that. People love to say it. So I think that'll help. Yeah.
If you have, it's like anything. Sports analogy. Here you go. You win if you're losing games, and then your team wins 3 in a row. You're like, whoa, okay, they're starting to play better now. And that's ultimately what could happen.
And they only need to change the narrative of the people that talk about it like we do. That's the narrative they need to focus on. Because at the end of the day, 3 of the top 10 worldwide box office of last year were superhero films. So it's not like people aren't showing up. They're just not showing up in the same way. And they need to change the narrative as much as they need to change the box office. They need to be more consistent. I just think that, everybody in the comments will be like, quite shilling for Marvel. But if you look at the world, the people are still going when they're good. People are still showing up.
And Iger says as much in those comments.
So as long as you get the narrative back, then you're in a good spot. I think the narrative is just difficult because you're coming from a deficit.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not. And what doesn't help Marvel in this case is that every superhero thing has been in the bed, more or less. Mm-hmm. And so when everything outside of, like, say, The Boys and Gen V, pretty much is just not doing well.
Well, I mean, they're doing well. But
it just depends. So, like, the Spider-Verse films, the Batman, Joker was a little further back because that was pre-pandemic, wasn't it?
Multiverse made like $900 million, though.
It did, but what did Kristian say? He said critically received, audience received, and box office.
That's what I'm saying, though, is you only need to fix the critical narrative in order to get back to good graces, because you've already got the audience more or less there.
And critic and
fan. Critics are never going to matter to comic book movies.
True.
It's fans.
We missed in 2025, by the way. Fantastic Four, which is July.
That is coming out 2025.
So that's
they're getting
4 movies.
4.
That's 4 movies.
That seems like too much.
It's a lot. I think Blade will move.
Look, don't get me wrong. If it's all gonna slap, give me as many as you want. I think when you're on the recovery, stop trying to.
Yeah, here's the problem. Here's the problem, though. You got to remember, the only reason I'm giving them a pass on 4 movies in a year is because
they're doing one this year.
The strike. They were supposed to have. Thunderbolts was supposed to be this year.
Well,
Blade was supposed to be this year.
Fantastic Four was supposed to be in 2024 because I was like, yay, 224.
And I'll be honest, I think that's the other thing that we're only now starting to truly understand how much the pandemic screwed up other things in life. So, like, the number of kids that are messed up from, like, not having that year of socializing and whatnot. I know as a parent, we're not also realizing how much this schedule mess around screwed up Marvel as well. Sure. Because the simple fact that you had, this is the story we're going to tell in this order, and then it's like, everything's going to shut down. Okay, we'll move this here because it's kind of done, and move this over here.
And then you only had a year or two, and then the strike.
And then this, the strike. Okay, wait, okay, well, then we need to reshoot and so moving that around.
The Jonathan Majors of it all. Yeah.
Well, then this got to go.
And no other studio had those level of forethought for 10 years. You don't hear other studios, like Universal probably had a map for the next 5 years, but it's not like them moving stuff affected them as much because this is a puzzle.
Because they're not connected. Exactly. You just tried to MacGyver a jigsaw puzzle.
So now let's jump back. So now you've got, it's the same thing, but I don't disagree that 4 is a lot. And it's because the reason why it's a lot is because it's that old argument that I used to have on Jedi Council all the time. And as I used to say, if they do it right, 2 movies for Star Wars could work, and then Last Jedi and Solo comes out within this around the same time. And you're like, see, it doesn't work. It doesn't work when it's so divisive. But then you go back and you look at what Marvel did, and when Marvel was hitting with 2 or 3 movies, and nobody cared because you were excited to see the next one. But the problem is that Marvel's in a spot right now that you're like, okay, this is risky. And so 7 months in between Deadpool.
Yeah.
Then, so let's do it again. Then you get Captain America in February. Okay.
Yeah.
March, April, May. 3 months later, you
Thunderbolts.
get Captain America.
Thunderbolts, and then
Thunderbolts.
only 2 months.
2 months
until
later,
a brand new
Fantastic
franchise. But that's one of the most
Fantastic Four.
marketable.
100%.
So, but only 2
irrelevant
months.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Because then you get Blade.
They need to change their strategy to be. I understand that the summer is like the block. Make it 1 a quarter. You trying to shove so many into.
But
You need
it is.
But remember why they're doing
February,
this.
May is second quarter, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter though. You know why they're doing all this and have to put it out in 2024, right?
because of 2025 because they're that behind.
Because Avengers comes out in 2025.
Conceptually.
And
2026.
2026. That's
Yeah.
what I meant. 2025 is the 4 movies. 2026 is Avengers. And so you now have to get those 4 movies to tell your narrative to get to May of 2026. And there's another Marvel movie that's supposed to come out in February, which is untitled at the moment. So that's the reason what you were just saying before, Winston.
Push Blade to February because that again you're then tapping into.
Right.
I said
But
it
what's
before.
that-
You either there's 2. Blade is going to do well on its own if it's a good movie, but there's 2 things it ties to: either horror or honestly, because Blade is a black character, you're gonna again be able to tap that audience.
But what's the February movie that's supposed to come out now? Is an untitled February movie. What is
I
that?
think it was supposed to be Spider-Man.
Right.
In which case, you don't need it then.
In
Do
which
you?
case you move it to summer. It's Spider-Man.
Yeah, but then
Secret
that's
Wars.
before Secret Wars.
Unless the end of Spider-Man sets up Secret Wars, which I think it
sets
was.
up, then you have a problem.
That's what I'm saying.
Then you
So
have a problem.
You guys just said
how
it
does
before.
Hulk? I mean, how does Blade come out November 7th when we finally have Halloween on a Friday?
That's
October
also a
31st.
great. That's awesome.
Move it a week.
Point.
Move it up a week. It's right there.
Because his box office numbers traditionally have just been stronger in November than they
But
have
not
in-
November 7th. Like it's usually, you know what I mean? Like,
but I understand.
move
what
it up
he's
a week.
I understand what he's saying in the sense that, like, yes, in theory, but people do so much stuff with Halloween already, and if Blade is going to potentially be
But if you have a 4-day weekend and you have an actual Friday Halloween, and like, you know, not like 4-day weekend like you have it off, but if you have a Thursday through Sunday box office,
I get it, but you got to remember, obviously, adults celebrate Halloween. We all get costumes and all that stuff, but like with kids and stuff, again, if it's an R-rated film, if that's what they're going to end up doing with it, then you're running that risk of like, let's
Well,
not
right
really-
now, you've got for Halloween during that week. I guess
that's this year. We're looking at we need next
This is
year.
2024, right? So we need 2025. So Halloween of 2025. This is what you've got coming up. There's really
Empty.
nothing right now. It's a Blumhouse
The Batman-
event film.
But the Batman Trust's October 3rd. They could do
Yeah.
Blade right after. Go from the
Well,
Batman.
but I think that's why they have November. I think the week later.
I'm just saying, people are tired of Halloween by November.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. But it really goes back to that point that you guys made, though, and that is that because of the narrative of getting to, unless they move Avengers, if they move Avengers to 2027, right. But if they move Avengers to 2027, then you can
Christmas Avengers.
Yeah, but what? No,
Push
when?
that
To when?
because then you're fighting
Yeah,
then you're fighting Avatar.
And then in 2026, you're fighting Star Wars.
You can. Here's the thing.
Oh, no, we own
actually-
everything.
I actually think. But that's the thing. I don't think. You could literally make a Barbenheimer situation. Avatar and Avengers wouldn't eat each other like that.
Yes,
I don't
But there'd be no fun
100%.
name because they're both Avengers.
I feel like both
nuts.
people. I don't know. I think both. I literally think people would do the Barbenheimer thing and they would go and see both. I don't think that
Yeah,
it
but
would.
but the Barbenheimer thing is different. Barbenheimer is Warner Brothers making money and then Universal making money at the same time. This is again why I think it's ridiculous that you've got Kong and Godzilla going up against Dune in the same.
Yeah,
same
it's
month.
foolish.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's what I'm saying is there was plenty of pie to go around. Barbie made 1.4 and Oppenheimer made like 900.
Dude, you don't
like,
cannibalize your own movie, your big IP movie, especially if you.
Especially when
I'm
we're trying to
telling
come back from a loss like
you,
Marvel's.
if you walk into the room and
narrative.
tell Bob Iger, hey, let's put out the Avengers the same week in Avatar, he's going to go. Put in
You're
your
fired.
resume somewhere else.
But I didn't even say same weekend because I know that was what happened with Barbenheimer. But I'm saying that month, it's not that crowded in that you could put one at the start of the month and one closer to Christmas.
That's a different conversation. But I mean, again, it's a matter of when people are really seeing these things. I think I think keeping it in May is the way to go because you look at the kind of money that Endgame did in April, May. I mean,
that
it
is one a quarter.
Spot.
February is first quarter. May is second quarter.
But they are in a spot now because of the shared universe. They are in a spot now where they have to get all these things out in order to tell their story that they want to tell. I think that, unfortunately, Blade is the only one that they probably could say, maybe we scrap it. Maybe we just, use Mahershala Ali for something else. And we scrap it, and then we bring a new Blade in after we finish the multiverse because it doesn't tie in as much, or it very well could. I don't know. And because it also makes sense to this. Going back to our beginning conversation now it answers a little bit more questions, right? Shang-Chi, where the hell's that fit in at all?
He would have had to have been after Secret, especially at the time the director was going to do both.
Maybe it wasn't Spider-Man. Maybe it was Shang-Chi.
That's what I was thinking.
In February.
So Shang-Chi is potential that it could, but it also gets rid of Armor Wars anywhere near. Where are you going to put Armor Wars?
Between Avengers? No way.
Where are you going to put that? And
Unless that's
there's
February.
another Avengers movie in
And
2020.
like off Winston's idea, basically, like in February you have Cap 4, and then you have Armor Wars the following year.
Because if you do that, you do Armor Wars, and especially if that's Cheeto, again, I know some people are gonna be like, "Why do you always make a black thing?" But like I'm telling you,
in February,
when you Get Out, Us, Black Panther, they have genuinely been like it's a smart move.
Yes,
Also, Cap 4 than Iron Man 4. I like the synchronicity.
That's
like if you've got your big IP on their fourth installment coming out 2 Februarys in a row, leading up to Avengers.
Yeah.
I think that shows formatting versus like.
that shows chaos right now. So you guys put your comments in there, man. Like all this conversation that we had right now. Where does it go? What happens? What gets
When
canceled?
do the shows come out?
Yeah, when do the show? Oh, the shows is another question too.
Daredevil.
Oh, that actually, I'm glad that before we scoot on, I'm glad that you said that because there's another report that a little while ago that said that they were going to focus more so on the street level shows now. Brilliant move.
Giacchino is rumored for Midnight Suns. It
What's
hasn't
that?
been
Tell me.
as firmly confirmed, but that is the Avengers of the street level. It's the
Okay.
supernatural stuff.
Okay.
It's Ghost Rider, it's Punisher, it's Blade, it's anything that feels occulty, but as a team that's like
More
more
adult.
yeah, it's like a darker. And so Giacchino, who made Gold out of Wolfman,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just called.
What's the name? Werewolf by Night. I just like completely Universal Monstered
it's
it.
another
Where I was like,
werewolf,
this is
yeah.
completely wrong. Werewolf by Night. I
you
knew
knew
I
it,
was
but you
wrong.
knew it.
I
Yeah.
paused so heavily because I was like, why am I glitching? Werewolf by Night did so much, especially with how they made everything look in the occult flavor. If you bring in Ghost Rider, if you can do it at the right budget, if you bring in Punisher and you have him transfer out of Daredevil into something like that, Giacchino, I think, is the guy. So I think they should do street level Netflix shows leading to a team up. But instead of Defenders, it's Giacchino's Midnight Suns. That's the rumor.
Yeah.
No, I mean Midnight Suns. Just that supernatural team. I think that would be, again, you're right. Bringing in that darker element works. We've already seen, you brought up Werewolf by Night and how successful that was. So there is definitely, but the problem is you need Blade. You really so many iterations of Midnight Suns have Blade.
And
But introduce him in the movie and then.
I get it, but I thought you're talking about Midnight Suns potentially happening not next year. You're talking about.
I'm saying they should have Agatha this year Halloween. They should have Midnight Suns next, like 2020.
really have to put
but
it in
Blade
production
has
already.
to happen first, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be the following year,
Well, we'd have to put it into production.
2026.
But Blade is right now set for November 25.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you cannot release Midnight Suns before you have Blade out there.
Yeah, I'm saying like October 26th.
Right, that's a whole
Year.
week or so.
year.
I'm saying, yeah.
I thought you meant the actual
No.
date, October
I'm
26,
saying-
2025.
October 26, 2024, Winston.
Cody's like, yeah, right, like right afterwards. And Winston's like, no, but he's got to come out first. Like, yeah, but like right afterwards.
The next year. Who's on first, Winston? Who's on first? October 26th. Like, I'm tied to that date. I am very specific and asking about
You kept going on about October 31st the next year, so I'm like, he's picking an actual day.
Okay, so October 26th.
I was like, why is October 26th so special?
right,
but
right.
5 days
Right,
later,
next year.
Blade comes out.
Right, next
it's
year.
very important to me.
Right, next year. But I will say that I think that it makes a lot of sense to go to
Street level for sure.
Yeah, because it's when you look at, we just watched the trailer for Fallout, right? And you look at something like Last of Us, and then you jump to the movie side of it, and you look at something like Dune. And it's like Marvel, because they've had all this success, and it's because it almost seems like they've gotten, in Star Wars too, like they've gotten lazy with how the quality of it. Like being able, and you don't have to make it as like serious and you know that kind of weight of Dune or Game of Thrones, right? But you can make it feel
Important.
You can make it feel like, you know, when you look at these shows, the latest Marvel shows, they look like, oh, we're trying to cut costs here, or it looks like they didn't really put a lot into the writing. And it's like, no, you know, if you scale back and you do one show, two shows, and you can get like a Netflix type of Daredevil show, that or Star Wars, whatever, that's what you should be aiming for.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The other thing that people don't take into consideration as to why some of these projects have not done as well as they have. So part of the thing that was being fought over during the strike was the WGA being like, you need to stop with these mini room BS type situations where it's like, okay, we'll bring it, like, Winston, you're going to write Blade, if Blade was a TV show, right? And you're going to get Coy and Kristian. They'll be able to help you for just the opening part, but then you're writing the entire show by yourself. The problem with that, especially as a TV show that is meant to have a team to work all that out and massage all that out, instead of just having the one writer essentially do all of it. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do that, but like that tends to be more of a movie scope. And if you're gonna, that's not what this is. This is a TV. You need a team to do that. So hopefully that fixes the problem with the strike. Now that you've set up the minimums for room,
it's true. And I also think one of the funniest things happens in movies also. And I will say that Coy and I had this conversation. I think like, and I talked to Coy about this. I think when we did our version that never aired, right? But we were talking about how because a lot of times, and it's not just you, but people will always say, depending on who the director is, well, it was studio interference. And studio interference, that's the reason why this movie didn't work. And I say sometimes you got to be able to blame the director too. But Madam Web, if you listen to Dakota Johnson, which was where the conversation came from.
And I was saying that Jay Clarkson did great stuff in Jessica Jones, and I was like, I don't know how this happened.
I still think that it's directed poorly.
But
I think that you clearly, from what Dakota Johnson is saying, that is not the movie that she signed on for. There was tons of studio interference, and you can't. She said, I think it should be handled by a writer, by a director, and there we go. That's to me what film is. I don't disagree with her.
Yeah, well, again, I get that it's show business, but remember the show part, that the most important part is you're delivering art. You're just finding a way to like sell it and make money off of it. So if the art it ain't artin', it's not gonna work. And so that I completely agree with Dakota. Let the team do what they need to do. Unless you have something that so blatantly is against what goes against what you do as a studio, you need to let the artist do the work.
Well, what she said, there was like meetings, and you could see this happening because we've seen it happen in our business. Well, the algorithm says this, and the conversation of this, and we pulled this, and we did this, and we did that, and what we think that the audience of this demographic wants, it's like, trust the story. Trust the story. And it looks like from the comments of what Iger is saying, he mentioned like Oppenheimer. You know, he mentioned like there are certain movies you can do that the people are like engaged in, and I hope that strategy sticks. I really do. And I hope that the strategy of just really focusing in on characters and good stories prevails. And then we say, because back to the point, if Captain America crushes, Thunderbolts crushes, Fantastic Four crushes, Blade crushes, Marvel's going to be
just fine.
Be in great shape going into 2026 for Avengers.
The one benefit of there being potentially 4 is if Captain America crushes and if Thunderbolts doesn't, it's only 2 months later until Fantastic Four.
Right, that's a very highly anticipated.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the 2 months between those two is allowing Thunderbolts to like.
Yeah. Now here's Devil's Advocate. Let's say Deadpool does well, really well, and then Captain America doesn't hit, and then Thunderbolts doesn't hit, and Fantastic Four does, and Blade doesn't. Ouch.
Secret Wars, blow it up, start over.
I mean, you were essentially at this point, you are doubling down on every bet. You were like, we're so in the hole, I gotta get back. So it's like, you know what? Fine, split it. Split that too. Split all those and just see what happens.
But I'm with you.
If
they got 4, you can miss. You don't have to hit with all 4 if you have 4. You can miss 1.
That's why I'm saying Thunderbolts being where it is, because that's the only one I'm worried about for the audience.
Yeah, but you can miss. But you can miss with 1. You can miss. You can miss with 1, but they can only be 1 of 2.
Yes, I think you can miss
with Thunderbolts or Captain America.
Right.
You can't miss. You can't miss with Fantastic Four, and you can't miss with Deadpool.
No.
Oh, I thought the 4 you were including was Blade in there. We're just saying Deadpool is its own.
Yeah, well,
I think Deadpool.
I mean,
we're
You're just
counting on.
talking. Since we really don't know Blade, you're talking about those.
yeah, I'm talking about those 4.
Okay.
Because if you get to Blade and anything is, I mean, like you, by the time you get to Blade, it's like you're gonna know if those movies all hit. And then Blade doesn't do well. At that point, it's like, okay, that sucks. They had so many problems. It sucks that they had all those movies, but they've set up enough. And
we made it for half the budget.
I guess I'll tell you though that the Lord knows that this is one of those weird things. I'm gonna bring it back to a sports analogy. You had a situation way back when Tony Romo first became quarterback for the Cowboys, where it's like, all right, they just need to make this field goal and then need to hold them for like 60 seconds. We'll have this play. Might have to do whatever, right? He fumbled the field goal. Yeah. So if somehow Deadpool doesn't do it, this might be a wrap.
Oh, we talked about that many times on this show. If that's a great point to bring up again, and to reiterate it, we've talked about it many times, and to echo what you just said. If Deadpool bombs, it's over. It's over. Like, no, it's not over. There's so much stuff. It's over.
Because that is your layup. That is your field goal. That is the sure thing.
It's your narrative. It's your whole
on
narrative.
top of that too.
And it's a bankable character that, if it doesn't do well, shows you where the audience is.
And that has succeeded twice already as an R-rated film.
Right. And you're adding Wolverine. And like you're literally is your. Now you talk about varsity players. You talk about your team.
You're bringing them all. You're bringing your all-stars out. Now, the chances of it bombing
are pretty slim.
Very slim. It's the highest viewed trailer of all time. People loved the trailer. People loved the character. People are excited to get some Marvel back. So the chance of it bombing, you don't want to put that bet in Vegas. Now, making $1 billion, that's the bet that I've got. I've got with Roca. It's got to make at least 750. Roca's tried to change this bet 8 times.
What's he saying?
No, first of all, we made a bet on. Thank God it was on air, and he said that it wouldn't. I said we'd make a billion, and he said he didn't even think it would. He would thought it would make 650. I said I'll give you 750. That's how confident I am, at least because the other 2 movies have made 760.
He thinks it's only going to make 650.
I think he thinks more now, but in that comment, that's what he said. And then we had talked about one point that I didn't think Dune was going to make 100 million for the weekend, right? And I didn't think it would cross $1 billion. And we talked about it, but we didn't make a bet on that.
Okay.
So he writes me a text. He's like, "Looks like I'm picking out my steak dinner now." I'm like, "Did Deadpool come out?" And he's like, "No, Dune." I go, "What the hell are you talking about? We didn't make a bet on Dune." He's like, "Yeah, we did." I said,
"We talked about it."
I said I wouldn't have bet on that because I want Dune to make $1 billion, and I want it to do. So then someone in the audience gave me the time code for the actual video,
Just sit in the receipts.
And I go, "Take a look." Like you literally said, because he's like, "No, I said it would make $1 billion." I said, "No, you didn't. You said it wouldn't even make 650." He's like, "Our bet is for." He said, "Our bet is for $1 billion." I said, "Our bet's for 750 because I gave you an extra 100." And then he's like, "Oh, okay." So because it's on, and Kalinowski's another rat. It's like we had a bet, and he said
Jesus,
yeah, they're the worst when it comes to bets, the worst. But anyway, okay, tons that we talked about, tons. We didn't even get to any other stories because we talked about this so much. Give your thoughts on all of it. Make it a debate. Make it a conversation. That's what we want to do here. Because the more you put the comments in there, the more we get a chance to answer you back. If you insult Coy, he'll definitely write you back.
See you there, message board. I've been so good. It's been months.
You have been. You've been good. But no, for real. Put your comments in there, and we'll have a conversation with you about it. And I'll tell you what. Let's get to our good friends over at BetterHelp and Rocket Money. Here you go. All right, guys, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. So, BetterHelp, I've been telling you guys about BetterHelp for a while now. We've had a lot of people that they've been helped out by. So, this is why the big thing is sponsored by BetterHelp, because what's the first thing you need to do? If you had an extra hour in your day, would you go for a run? Would you take a nap? Would you read a book? Would you show up for a friend? Well, the problem is a lot of us spend our lives wishing that we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. So I've mentioned Roxy Stryer. She's talked about it many times. She's really benefited from BetterHelp. I've had people inside of my family that have benefited from BetterHelp because talking to someone helps. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, it's designed to be convenient, it's flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/bigthing today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. Rocket Money, I've been telling you guys about Rocket Money forever because there's a lot of times that you forget about these subscriptions and you either pay twice for it, you didn't realize it, you sign up for a thing and you're like, oh, I'll do that first free month, and then it's gone. Your money's gone every month. Did Rocket Money do what you wanted them to do for you when you signed up? Because it did it for me. I had all these subscriptions and I was like, oh, and it lists it out and it says, don't do that. You don't need these. It tells you how much money you have that you've spent in the month. It tells you, it gives you your credit score. It gives everything. I mean, Rocket Money for me is the way to go. It's a personal finance app. And it finds and it cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps lower your bills, which is the best. So you can grow your savings because Rocket Money has over 5 million users and it's saved a total of 500 million, saving members up to $740 a year. So don't waste money. Cancel your unwanted subscription and go on over to rocketmoney.com/big-thing. rocketmoney.com/big-thing. All right. Thank you to our friends over at BetterHelp and Rocket Money. Always excited to have them on the show. And if you guys are able to hit those links, take a look. And if it works for you, sign up. Links in the description, pinned comment.
I'm proud of Coy because I actually saw him on Twitter the other day. Someone tried to come for him for like liking something. Oh, yeah. And he did go after the kid, but then right after it was like, he would be like, hey, your podcast is trash, but best of luck. God bless. I was like,
I did see that
not
too.
you beating his ass and going, God bless.
Yeah, he like carefully structured that tweet too. He's like, you're a 40-year-old doing a podcast. I know 40-year-olds are doing podcasts that doesn't have any subscribers.
Everybody has to start somewhere.
Everyone was happy to a point.
Because I was like, I'm like, wait a minute.
Without an audience, dozens of followers. They were like, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
Just understand, we're always watching.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
he knows.
I know. I was proud. That was my first clap back in months. I had to make sure it was good. I was walking back from the gym and I was like, I got 10 minutes.
It's literally why I debate sometimes. I'm like, do I text him? Do I tweet him back? Because there was another one that like I guess people were something was coming up about TikTokers like being at red carpets or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then you put something of like just because you have followers
an audience
doesn't mean you have
equal
talent.
skill. Yeah,
exactly. And that was a whole debate.
And someone was like, well, if you have an audience, you can reach more people. And I was like, correct.
But then if you blow it,
then you are only embarrassing yourself to a larger scale.
You know,
and there's a skill.
That's never going to change. You know why?
Because they don't care about skill. They care about eyes on a property. They see someone famous and therefore it works for them. It's marketing.
It's exactly what it is.
Oh, I know. I hate it.
What happened was that clip of the guy that you're talking about that asked the most ridiculous question. Apparently he's a really nice guy, but he asked a ridiculous question.
Was it the one about gay son or thought daughter?
No, it was about like, what's it like to like kiss your friend?
No, not kiss your friend. It was
Zendaya. It was to
do a sex scene with.
Not this one. This one I saw was the one where it was that might have been.
There was 5 that day.
Yeah, but it was the one that I saw was Chalamet and Austin Butler.
Yeah,
and basically like, hey, you guys are friends. What's it like, to be? How do you do it where you are friends in real life, but then you've got to be a bad guy in this? Like, how do you do that? And Chalamet just had an answer like,
I'm an actor.
But he answered it as best as he could. But that video everywhere. Probably the one that I saw, the version I saw had like 8.1 million or something. Guess what? Everybody was talking about Dune. Mm-hmm. So guess what the studio says? Woohoo! Let's do that again.
Yep.
Yeah, because what do they care?
Yeah, every time I see one of those flags from once journalist being held by someone that's going to be like a joke, you think
they?
Oh no, they're getting their money.
They're the kind of content that's going out as far as it's like, well, that's simple, that's great. We don't need.
Well, especially because it doesn't make your star look bad. It makes the people that you hired look bad, and that's not enough for you to then hire him.
They just invited him.
Yeah, they allowed him in, and that's the. Yeah.
But even that's what I mean.
The butt of the joke isn't their stars,
right? And you have actually made the stars look smarter because they go, what am I dealing with here? Right. I just my whole issue with that, man, is just I think about like any of the people that I've known that have done this kind of stuff. I think about Josh Horowitz and how like well he does. I think about all of the great interviewers that are out there, and when you keep doing this whole situation, like it's embarrassing.
You know how many actors don't want to do press now? Like, and like I literally work with certain actors that want to work with me because of these other idiots. Like I get requested by certain actors because they know they've got to deal with 90% that stuff and then the 10% real.
Horowitz is another guy. Horowitz and I have become like pretty good friends now, right? So like the thing with him is what he's done brilliantly is he shifted to be able to use the kind of assets that some of these influencers stuff too, because he had a YouTube channel that had, I don't know, like 800 subscribers. right? And then he and I were talking, and I was helping him out with his channel as well too. And he structures out his channel. And I said, dude, you do what you do, just do what you do. And now he's at like 70,000, right? Because he puts out clips and he's the best. He's the best, and people love talking to him. And he's got a lot of connections. So now, what does he also have? Now he also goes, yeah, well, my video with Henry Cavill just did 1 million. So I was already good with you guys, but now my interviews are doing even better on my own without MT.
And Cavill feels like, I can have a real conversation, not just like listening to these TikTokers make up asinine.
And Cavill is an example of someone who doesn't do a lot of interviews, but always does interviews with Josh because he feels comfortable with him. He knows the kind of questions he's going to get. And Josh is not a softball interviewer. Josh goes, you see most of the big scoops that you see as far as an interviewer goes is from Josh Horowitz, from his podcast, because it's not that they feel just safe. They feel like comfortable and they're having a conversation. And that's the type of stuff I wish that we could see more of. Like, and I've talked about this too. Like, that's my style. I love doing that with interviews. I don't try with the studios anymore. Because I know until the channel gets to like 500,000, 1 million subscribers, then I can say to them, "Hey, I want somebody." For
I can only book interviews that I personally have relationships with to grow to that point.
Yeah.
Then
but it's not a big thing to me. It's like, okay, I'll be able to if I get interviews, I love doing them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go out of my way to try to do them because it's like you have to jump through hoops right now in order to do it. Especially if you only have if there are great writers out there, great writers who don't have an audience. They have barely. And they're like, well, yeah, you want an hour with them to do this? You want 50 minutes? Well, maybe we'll get you in the junket, but we don't know because we got Louie over here who's got a billion things on TikTok.
I guess I totally understand that. I guess what I hate at this point is that I understand that then having whatever sort of TikTok stuff that is quote unquote the pipeline.
Yeah, there should be a balance.
There has to be, because
it might balance one day. The pendulum's just right now in the extreme other.
The only one that I think has balanced right now is you are seeing less situations of like a TikToker or an Instagram star being able to platform that into like an acting career, because when that talent does not show and then it's like, oh, nobody's watching the show. This person doesn't work. That's different versus if there's enough TikTokers that are that high up or YouTubers that are that high up with those numbers. I can throw them in for one doing thing and say, I'd never need to invite you again, but I got what I wanted. And there will be another one you can throw in and it won't hurt you.
Right.
But if you throw somebody into a TV show that you've now put millions into, that could implode.
I think also you need to be careful of them actually causing a problem. Like I don't remember what it was, but I remember someone like asked a red carpet question and it made the talent like visibly uncomfortable.
It was the gay son thought daughter. So that was a trend that was going on. Is would you rather have a gay son or like a thought daughter that's like on the streets, like for the streets? And it was like what? Like,
I didn't actually see the clip. I just saw the stills of it, and I was like, that's different, though. So like, if you make your talent...
It goes back in the shift in this business in general. And I remember that, like, Mark Ellis and I, for people who found this channel recently and don't know, is part of a review channel with Mark Ellis, doing Schmoes Know. And we were the first YouTube reviewers ever certified on Rotten Tomatoes. I remember when because I had connections from working at Warner Brothers. So I was like, I need to get into press screenings. How do I get into these screens right now? Because we were going into movies on the weekends to see 3 movies, and we were sneaking into movies because I wasn't paying for freaking shit-ass movies, bad movies. I went to so we would go back to back to back, and that was like our Saturday or Sunday, and I could do that before I had kids. And so I was like, well, let me try to start getting into screenings. So I started to find the contacts and do it that way. And then I remember getting accepted to a few of them, but they were like, well, you're on what? You're on YouTube? You're in 2009, 2010? And they were like, no. I remember this woman at Sony who was just like, yeah, no, it's just print and everything. There was no influencers. There was none of this stuff. Like, no, we just had print. And then I remember eventually we got into it. But I remember sitting, and I think I've told this story before, but Mark and I were at the True Grit screening. This is 2010. It was our first real press screening where we looked over, and it was he and I, and we were looking, and there is Alonso Duralde and Leonard Maltin. And I look at Ellis, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? I'm like, how the hell did we get in here? And I think that and then I remember feeling like, okay, we really accomplished something here by going to these screens, and we would meet all these people from these different outlets. And then I remember one time being at a this was probably 2-3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago. And that audience changed, and it was I started seeing people get invited to screenings that were influencers, that were Instagram and TikTok, and I'm going, whoa, it's a different business now.
Because they want people to walk out and just be on their phone and like report right there. They want that word of mouth. And that's why I'm moving into like more cons, because that's a long form conversation like I get to have and want to have, but nobody ever gets to see it. Like that's what's hard is like but I care more about the conversation than the audience. Like I don't like the term influencer. I think it's really detrimental to society. So I'd rather have the conversation that no one gets to see but the 400 people, the 700 people in the room, than have it be for 10,000 people but be asinine and stupid.
Yeah.
Because if asinine and stupid is going to sell, I don't want to sell.
Yeah, I get it. It's like there is a lot. There's a lot with, and I remember I had this conversation before I saw Dune 2 with Simon Thompson and Jeff Snyder, and they were talking about it. And Jeff wrote a whole thing on his news blog. But it was also funny. Speaking of Snyder, if you notice, like how there's always like new players in every game, right? Mm-hmm. Like Snyder, when he went out on his own, Snyder's been in the game for a while, but like he went out on his own. He's got his newsletter, and now he's one of those guys you see when you see him breaking scoops. It's like these rogue agents, because it's usually Hollywood Reporter and Variety, or there's Boris Kitt and whoever it might be. You see these people who have been doing it forever, and then there's like these rogues out there, and the ones that are now you get Snyder, but then there's this who the new guy, the Daniel RPK guy,
yes,
and then the Richmond, I guess the other guy. Mm-hmm. But the way you become a rogue player and successful rogue player is you get accurate scoops.
Yeah,
and these guys have been doing that. So it's interesting to watch that field change as well. Like all the fields are definitely changing. Even here with the stuff that we do, and even when I was talking to somebody recently about like YouTube. And when I started back into this channel, I was starting to go off the old rules. And I'm like, well, let me go into 2000, how I used to do it with Ellis. I'd put a review up and I'd do this. And I remember, and I've talked about this, but what's the one with Ryan Reynolds that he did with Sean Levy recently, where he's the video Free Guy. So Free Guy and I said, I want to review this, and I reviewed it. And I remember Schmoes know we would miss a movie and we wouldn't see it for like 3-4 months, and then we would put a review out. I'm like, oh, and still do 20 to 40,000, and I'm like, oh, I'll do that. I'll put a review out. People are interested in my reviews, and it ate a big pile of shit.
And that trashes the whole channel, which sucks. Like the algorithm now is like, I didn't put out a Dune review because I couldn't put it out Thursday. So therefore, if I put it out like Monday, it's not. It
tells you basically what the algorithm then says is like people don't, especially with the way AI is working and everything too. They're saying people don't come to your channel for reviews. Is what it says now. That's how I feel the algorithm feels about like when I do reactions. When I do reactions to shows and I do reactions to things, it does not show up for people on because I think that I did a couple of them, they ate it, and nobody pays attention to it. But to go back to that, I was like, well, what do I do then? I got to be a little bit more accurate on it. I got to find a little bit more with tags and understanding and thumbnails and things. And Greg Alba was on the phone with me like, I don't know, maybe it was when I was still at Skybound, but we were on the phone, he and I, like every day for like, it had to have been between 7 to like 10 days in a row.
Wow.
And he would just like, try this, do this, make sure you do it, and gave me the best advice ever. And I've stuck to that. And my channel has grown because of it and continuously. And he's helped me out. And I've told him every single time. And I always try to give him, whether it's public credit or anytime we're in a meeting, I talk about it because you've got to be able to shift and pivot. I still see people doing stuff in our space, the things that they were doing back in 2016, 2017 still. And I'm like, if you try to keep going down that road, and I'll say, you got to try, if they ask me, I wouldn't put that up. I wouldn't do that at this point because it's going to hurt your channel. And then that channel, because the next thing inside of that segment that you do could be a really good video.
And
the algorithm, no one's watching this.
And that's what's so hard is people don't understand that, like, oh, review this for us. I can't review that for you. Like, I can't, that'll mess up the channel. Like, it's not just, I'm not ignoring. It's just like, this is the way it is now.
It is. And as I saw some people like, would be, and we talked about this with Roka and I, we were on the live stream, and somebody's like, because I took my Apes trailer out of I had it, and I took it down because it was like 4,000 less than, and they're like, well, we wanted to see it. I'm like, I wanted you to see it. But the problem is that the next time I do reaction, it's going to be, and
if we're doing reactions like live, like we were talking, like if we're trying to grow a new thing, we can't have the detriment.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
You almost have to, and I've seen other major YouTubers do this. If you're going to do that, you almost have to have the auxiliary one, and if you want to speak on it, like if you're going to be like, hey, if you want to see X, Y, and Z, go to the auxiliary one, and then just let that live there,
or put it on Patreon.
That too.
But that's why I started doing so I only do the one UAP thing on Tuesdays for the show, and because I had put a couple separate pieces, and they didn't do as well on Monday or two, and I'm like, yeah, because this channel is really it's one show a week, I think, for UAP stuff for me, because it's Tuesday I didn't have a show on. I like doing it on Tuesdays. And to me, that makes sense. But if I keep doing that type of stuff, then it becomes, well, what's the channel?
The algorithm won't know what.
But it's all, well, this audience doesn't know. The audience says, well, what's the channel?
Yeah.
So I started a new channel. I did where it's just UAP news that the UAP show stays every Tuesday, but I do it, and it helped the algorithm over there, because it's like, well, that's what they're coming to this channel for. They don't come to this channel for that except on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, the show does well, because that's when it's really crazy. And I think I really do think there's a lot of AI involved in it now too, that even more so, like, oh, well, he put up one of those shows. People go to that channel for that. Oh, he put it up on Monday. Nobody cares about that. And it's crazy. But anyway, we dove down a whole new hole. And I think that what we'll do is we'll just do one more story after these words from both RHONE and VESSI. I love VESSIs. I've been talking about these VESSIs. Oh, I love them. They're the best. You just slip them on, and they're waterproof. Fantastic. I'll tell you about them right now. Here you go. All right. I love getting you guys good deals, and I got it. RHONE. There's so much pain in trying to find what to wear. Whether it's uncomfortable, it's tight, it's never your size, there's difficulty putting pieces together when all the fabrics are different textures. I know it happens to me all the time. You want to look good without having to think about it. Well, that's where RHONE comes in. They stepped up to the challenge, everybody. They got the commuter collection. It's comfortable, it's breathable, and it's a versatile set of products known to man. They have products for every occasion, whether it's the most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, blazers. They look great as individual pieces, and they work seamlessly together. RHONE's signature 4-way stretch fabric, it's breathable, it's flexible, and it works everywhere from your commute to work to the 19th hole. It's time for unparalleled confidence without all the hassle. RHONE's commuter collection features wrinkle release technology, and it is 100% machine washable, looking good. Is that easy? I'm telling you, I love this. They sent me some of this stuff, guys, and first of all, they have the kind of just relaxing casual stuff, but I needed a good pair of pants to go with my suit, and my goodness, I got some for me. I got some for Riley. We're looking slick. It is so great. The commuter collection is easy to care for also, by the way, and it stays fresh and it's odor-free. Just head over to RHONE.com/BigThing. Use that promo code BigThing. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/BigThing. Use that code BigThing. It's time to find your corner office comfort. VESSI. So, John, I got these new shoes, and they have it's like rain wear. It's really, it's incredible. They sent it to me a while ago, but I'm so excited to tell them about them. For us, I want to tell you that VESSI has this innovative, it's like footwear, and it's designed for spring weather. It's great. So Stormburst VESSIs are the ones that I really want to kind of emphasize, and they're your go-to for every setting, city streets to outdoor adventures, enhancing your style and activity with ease. So you can, whether it's snowy trails, wet streets, morning dew walk. So whether you're facing unexpected snow or slippery paths, it's so crucial in general to have these. I'm planning a move. I've talked about this, but it's been raining a lot in LA. And I've been wearing my VESSIs everywhere. And you guys seen it. I've been wearing the one hoodie that I have that they sent me. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I love these hoodies. I've worn it on in so many different videos. They have all-weather, all-occasion footwear from beach days to snowy commutes. They have so many different things. You should elevate your spring wardrobe when you travel with VESSI's Stormburst shoes. You can discover more at VESSI.com/BigThing. Get your pair today and get an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout. And be ready to step out into style. It is great stuff. I love VESSI. I really, really enjoy VESSI. That's right. Listen, what did you do? Did you put on the VESSI? Did you get some new clothes at the RHONE? Well, you should. If you did not, well, then the joke's on you. Ha ha. I would tell you, use those codes, go into the description, you find it, go, there it is, and click on it. And what do? You help me, I help you. That's what I did. You helped me help you. That's right. Moving on.
I could have used some VESSIs last night. Damn.
Yeah, you should have. They're awesome.
That damn rain, bro.
Love those VESSIs. All right. Let's do this then. All right. Before we get the hell out of here, Zack Snyder was on Joe Rogan, and he talked a lot about Justice League. He talked about toxic fans. He talked about breaking Batman's no-kill rule. Now, this is a summary from Comic Book Movie. This is Mark Cassidy. Zack Snyder appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience and discussed a range of topics, including his experience working on Justice League and the perception that the majority of his fans are toxic. Rebel Moon director Zack Snyder was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, and the divisive filmmaker discussed a range of topics, including several of his DC-based products. Snyder touches on his experiences working on Justice League and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and how the studio's insistence that he made certain cuts led to his reputation as the director's cut guy. He also mentions that he found it very difficult to secure a PG-13 rating for BVS because the ratings board simply didn't like the idea of Batman and Superman fighting. Speaking of The Dark Knight, Snyder weighs in on the debate surrounding the iconic DC comic hero's no-kill rule. He said if you don't test the morality of the character, then it's dead. It can't evolve. It can't move. It can only answer questions that doesn't break canon, and that's not the way to treat these legendary characters. Snyder also delves into the negative perception of his fan base, and while he acknowledges that there is a toxic element, he praises their passion and the fact that they saved lives by raising more than $600,000 for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention after his daughter Autumn took her own life, which is still absolutely awful. Every time I hear my heart breaks for him every time I hear that. But it's a dad. But anyway, so the statements in general, it's like, look, the guy definitely every time he talks, there's always
headline.
It's always a headline. But I say the same thing about him that I say about like Matthew Vaughn at this point. Like I want Matthew Vaughn to stay the hell out of spy movies and do that and do your own thing. Bring your vision to the world in other ways. And I want to see Snyder do the same thing. I know he didn't say in this that he's going back to superhero movies and everything too. And people will say, well, Rebel Moon. People didn't love Rebel Moon. I still don't understand with Rebel Moon why would the rated R cut wasn't released first.
They're really trying to engineer a Snyder cut, and it's such a bad move.
I don't get it. But Coy, all these comments in general that you hear, what stands out?
My biggest issue is the Batman no kill rule comments, where he's basically like, well, that quote delving into morality, yes, but you can do that without breaking the one thing the character stands for. If there's no kill rule, why is the Joker alive? If there's no kill rule, how does Batman have Arkham Asylum need to exist? Because he's just taking people out. Like, you delve into morality by looking at the no kill rule. You delve into morality by going like, what's that threshold? To just take it away isn't delving into morality. It's going like, what if I make a new character?
It changes the essence of the character.
Yeah, right? Like what if Batman? What if Spider-Man's Uncle Ben didn't die? He didn't care about responsibility. That's not Spider-Man. That's a new character. So my issue isn't like, I've always said that I love Zack Snyder as Elseworld. That's the point of an Elseworld. You make an Elseworld to go, what if? Not to go, this is the character. I've always seen his universe as an Elseworld, and that's how I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But it's not the character. So I think, especially with his comments, he kind of doubled down on, I make Elseworlds. I make the Snyder cut. And that's why I'm okay with the Snyder cut, because it is his universe and his world, but it's not the DC universe. He didn't make DC characters on screen. He made his movies.
Snyder's versions of
it. Just like I've always said that Bryan Singer made really good mutant movies. I've yet to see him make an X-Men movie.
Yeah.
God damn.
I'm excited for an X-Men movie. I think we're going to get some great X-Men movies, but he's made some mutant movies.
That's a quotable.
What about First Class?
Not Bryan Singer.
No.
I think Matthew Vaughn made a way better X-Men movie.
Right, but you said we haven't seen an X-Men movie.
From Bryan Singer. I think First Class is the closest to an X-Men film we've ever gotten. I don't think that you need a heroin-addicted Xavier and Kitty Pryde to suddenly have powers she doesn't have. Like, I think it has elements that are good.
That was the weird part, is having Kitty just manifest powers that don't make any sense whatsoever.
Like, it is a very good movie that follows Matthew Vaughn's great movie. Like, I think Logan and Days of Future Past and First Class are the best three.
I'm with you.
But Days of Future Past is a lot of the foundation that Matthew Vaughn gave us.
X2.
X2 is a really good way to get people that don't know or like comics to enjoy mutants, but it doesn't feel like an X-Men movie.
Okay.
It's a really good approximation of Days of Future Past, but it's very similar in that these are ways that he perceives a certain type of thing.
But hearing you say that, though, I get so excited for just the idea of getting another X-Men movie.
Dude, it's so soon. We're at the show so soon.
Yeah, well, X-Men 97.
Yeah, but I can't wait for the movie.
Which is great.
I'm just we're all talking about X-Men again.
No, I agree.
Like a new live action X-Men. Like that's where we could have talked about it back then, but that's the future of Marvel.
No, I agree.
When are those dates?
I know.
To circle back to what we were talking about, I think the one that stood out for me as well was the Batman comment, and it's specifically because the two things with Batman and with Superman, above all else, a Superman story of how hard he can punch something is not interesting. The most interesting Superman story is Superman is presented with something. It's not what he can do. It's what should he do. I would buy his Batman argument about the no kill if he is broken and he's now just killing without any sort of regard. And then you actually present him with something that makes him remember his morality, his humanity. And he's like, I've been screwing up. I have to go back to that. If he had actually done that, then I will give him that argument of like testing what happens when you're really broken. But that's not really what happened. It's like, yes, we know that a Robin was clearly killed, but then he was just indiscriminately, and we never really address it. He just kills to kill. And that's crazy to not actually explore that.
Well, for me, the one that always stood out was the Superman one, right?
It was odd, yeah.
I didn't mind it as much, and I'll tell you why. Because that was kind of going to what you were just talking about, where Superman wasn't on a rampage killing people. He, in that moment, took this guy out because, and it pained him to do it. Like the Henry Cavill, some of the best acting he's done so far when he has to do it. And one thing about Superman is that it's his humanity.
Sure.
And the idea, like when he does it, it's like he's human, and he does it at this moment. Like he's not running around just blasting people with his eyes. He has to do it in that one moment. And I was like, that is that one moment that we've never seen Superman do that, and he had to do it. I didn't mind it.
I guess what bothers me with that is because Superman also kind of doesn't really kill that often.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Like it's very rare, and it comes in particular moments. So for example, he killed Doomsday because it's like, oh my God, if I do not kill this thing. As a rat,
Zod was about to kill all those people with his eyes.
I get it, but it was what? It was like a family of like 3 people.
Whatever.
I understand. No.
What is that?
Hold on.
Winston's line is 3. He's like, what?
Time out. Time out. What I mean by that specifically, and that's kind of the point they set up a little bit in the next film in Batman v Superman. Bro just destroyed all of Metropolis and all of
Winston's trolley problem is like, how many people are on that track? 3.
Right.
I gotta do it.
But he had an opportunity. The difference is he was trying to save everybody in the city, but he couldn't do it.
I think what you're trying to say is like there's no escalation if he does it immediately. Like Doomsday wouldn't matter if he kills him because he's already killed Zod in the first movie. And like, okay, is that?
Thank you. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. So it's just as far as that because
who's the family of 3?
Yeah. No, this is Smith. No, because the guy won't pay his taxes. Let him go. I say all of this to say the rampage that all of these heroes kind of went on just murdering people. Because like even then to that point. Well, then why didn't you kill Luthor if that's the case? If you're just so willing, and he's the one that released this monster.
And Luthor kills so many people.
But that's what I mean, though. The thing is, in that moment, because whether you like the Smiths or not, they're about to get whacked with the laser, and he's like, "There's nothing I can do here. The only thing I can do is."
But it opened a floodgate because then what ended up happening? He started then indiscriminately killing. You're telling me that
Superman did?
Yes, you're telling me that when all of a sudden now Lois is kidnapped. You're telling me when he punched that guy through the ceiling, that dude is dead.
He's dead,
and it's not just that. You have a situation of then at the end of Justice League, whether it be the Justice or the Zack Snyder cut, he just beheads Steppenwolf like it's no big deal. Yeah. Like I'm saying, you set up this precedent of like, nah, they just be killing. That's just what happens.
And then instead of Superman, it's Homelander. And Homelander only exists because Superman doesn't do a thing. Right. It changes the character. If there's a rule and then you're like, what if the rule's in pencil?
Okay. Yeah. I see how I presented the family.
It was just such a you're like 3.
So
my issue is 3.
But the only time we ever see Clark cross that line is it's like, no. This is like universe ending. I have to kill Darkseid. If I don't, then this that's a wrap.
It's why I didn't like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man as much as other people did, because when he makes out with Gwen Stacy in front of Mary Jane, he's not in the symbiote suit. Like he's not corrupted. So by the time he puts on the symbiote suit, I'm like, oh, so he's just been a dick.
Oh, the first time. Yes. When he's hanging upside down.
He does the kiss she knows matters to her in front of her, and he's like, ah. And then he puts on she's like, I'm a bad guy now. I'm like, you've been a dick, bro. Yeah. Like, you don't get to grow as an arc if you've been a dick. Like, so the black suit is interesting in the comic books because it's like, what if he didn't have the responsibility? He literally puts on the black suit at one point because Kingpin gets Aunt May so injured he thinks Aunt May's going to die. So he takes off the red suit and puts on a cloth approximation of the black suit to murder fools because he's like, I'm broken. This is how I felt in the black suit. That doesn't work if he's in the red suit. Like, what if I just take the gloves?
Because I guess the other thing was on, and I think the reason why it bothered me, this is his first major test posted because the only reason he didn't go and save his dad is because his dad said, nah.
Right.
his first
Another classic Superman scene when he can't defeat a tornado. That dog's more important than Pa Kent.
If your first major
Shitting
test,
on Man of Steel over here. I love Man of Steel.
no, I enjoy Man of Steel, but this set up a precedent for everything that came after it. And so if your first test, as like I am now announcing myself to the world as a superhero, is, you know what?
I know. I understand. Well, either way is I understand the kind of the where he was going with it particularly, but I think that you explained it very well in that you do change the DNA of the character by doing it as much. So there was a lot. Look, we talked about as we were going on the air. We're like, well, this particular thing we should talk about. And we really thought about the breaking down of where the MCU could go. And then we also wanted to be able to talk about some of these comments. So make sure you put your comments in there. Let us know. Start the debate. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I'd like to thank both Winston and Coy for being here today. We'll start with Winston. Where can I find you?
You can find me at the Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms, man. Come check out Breakfast AM News. And then the world kind of just kicked my tail. We'll put it that way. So instead of being able to do individual breakdowns for the 10 best pictures, I am doing a big one coming out on Saturday to cover them all. So if you want to check that out before the Oscars, please come check that out on my YouTube channel.
You can find me at Koijandro on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and I think what I'm going to do is something similar. I'm going to batch. I didn't get to review Dune, but I want to, so I'm going to go rewatch Dune, and I'm probably going to do it as a batch of. I think Dune might be a 5-star film for me, so I've only ever given like 28 of those. I might do reviews of my 5-star films over on my YouTube, so come check it out.
All right, so do that. Check out both those guys, and then you can look at us, whether we're at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if that's how you listen to it. If you are interested in more news on the UAP phenomenon, make sure you check out the new channel, Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. It is running now, and we do daily news videos, so check it out. All right, thanks for joining us. For myself, Winston, and Coy, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.